Alright, so we're going to take a look now at something called pivoting. You may run into instances where you have more than one network in an environment, as well as you may get access externally, and that may then lead you into the internal environment. I've seen it get so bad as like an externally facing system with like a default password on like Drupal or something was a member of the domain. It wasn't a domain admin, but it gave us domain access internally. So on our Windows 7 system, I had you set it up actually with two interfaces. So it has our bridge network, which again that changed, and it also should have, here we go, 172.16 something. So it has two networks, and I switched XP out. I just changed it to host only, so now it has only a host only interface. So we can't, from Kali, where we only have a bridge network, we can't directly access that Windows XP machine, but we do have an open session on Windows 7. So what we can do is if we background this, we can actually add a route. It's very similar to how we add routes in Linux proper, but we just want to add the route to 172.16.233.0, 255.255.255.0, so it's a /24, and we tell it we want it to go through session, I'm not entirely sure what session this is, 6. So we tell it we want it to route everything, route del, I did this wrong, because I did 192, and it needs to be 172. You mean route not found? Looking at it. So, I see what I did. Okay, so let's do this right. So route add, and the network is 172.16.233.0. Of course, change it to meet your environment, and it goes through 6. So then we can actually start talking to that XP system directly through our Windows 7. So we could use, for instance, a Metasploit port scanner. I mentioned that Metasploit can do anything, and these other tools can do pretty much. It's not as powerful as Nmap, but it will do a basic DCP port scan for us. So what's our 141? Okay, so then I want to set our hosts 172.16.233.141 and exploit. So it's going to be a little bit slower, but we are actually able to port scan this guy directly through this route. So just because we have access through Windows 7 and we have a session, we are actually able to send traffic to that system. Let's go ahead and kill this. So actually, in some cases, this isn't always going to be true. It really just depends on how the protocol and the exploit work. But in some cases, we can actually even exploit through this pivot. If I set our host to and we are actually going to have to do a bind shell because basically the reverse shell won't know how to get back to us, but the bind shell will be able to route through the pivot or the route correctly. So you can, I'm sure you can imagine it, that the reverse shell, it has this IP address for a completely different network. It has no idea how to route to there. So in this case, we're going to have to manually put in a bind shell. There is, of course, an interpreter, so we won't lose any functionality. I haven't done a bind shell in a while. We actually don't have to do anything. So now if we say exploit, and this is going to depend on the protocol, really. You're not going to be able to do this with just any exploit, but it does work through SMB. So we've got another session, and now we have a foothold into that network. Alright. Another thing we can do once we have that route up, a typical question is what about things that are outside of Metasploit? And there is a SOCKS 4a proxy. So if we use auxiliary server SOCKS 4a, we do need to have that route up. Oops, SOCKS with an S, 4a. Show our options. By default, it listens on all addresses, and it's 1080 as the port. We'll let that run. So this basically just sets up a proxy server that will allow us to run things outside of Metasploit and basically route them through Metasploit. So we can send stuff like with Nmap. So we need to set up our SOCKS proxy with proxy chains. So if we open up etc proxychains.conf, this is all built in. And we need to go here to the bottom, and by default it uses Tor, so our SOCKS for local host, we need to change that to 1080 or whatever the port was here, 1080, and just save it. And so now we can just start working as normal, but we need to put the command proxy chains in front of anything. So we can say proxy chains like nmap. It is going to be a little bit complicated. I generally look up like what kind of commands I want. Like I turned off ping. I do like port 445 and 446. One's going to be open, one's not. So it's going to run it through the proxy chain. So proxy chains will send it to Metasploit. Metasploit will send it through the route. That's supposed to be 445. I don't think it'll work if you do ping. So I turned off the ping. What do you mean? Denied. That one should be open. Am I getting the IP address wrong? Yes, it's 233, not 185 or 85. Yeah, that worked. So we were able to get version information with proxy chain. So you can also like run Nessus through this. It's incredibly slow, but you can do it. So you can use proxy chains to really basically turn your pivot into very close to being on the same network. So it is possible.